Although tomorrow night's game will be an exhibition match, training for the Northern New South Wales side is still being taken seriously. Many of the 15 players selected in the team play in the National League or the local Newcastle competition. Tomorrow night they will be playing for their place of origin. Despite FK Vada being hailed as one of the world's best, New South Wales coach Ken Kaiser is confident of a win. FK Vada is now touring Australia and will arrive in Newcastle tomorrow afternoon in time for a 7:30 kick-off.
This is a taste of what spectators can expect tomorrow and Saturday night. The track is not yet finished, but those riders which tested it out today gave it the thumbs up.
The real tight arena, there's going to be a lot of handlebar banging out there, guys falling down, and it does make the racing tight.
American Mike Jones is a former World Supercross champion. He'll be up with the best during the 2 nights of competition. Another name to watch out for is Melbourne rider Lee Hogan. After 5 rounds, Lee is leading the Supercross Masters Series.
I wouldn't like to pick who the major competition is going to be. It could be any one of about 8 riders. It's going to be really tough.
Hot on Lee's tyres is Queenslander Glenn Bell on bike number 6. He's keen to whittle away Lee's 2-point advantage. The Supercross Masters will be held over 2 nights at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre.
The police department by now has the message that a plan to send Newcastle police to relieve officers in Sydney is, to say the least, unpopular. The signals were between police families and spouses and the architects of the so-called rotational transfers scheme.
Do some more homework on it, get back to the drawing board.
We believe we've got a fair to all of our employees.
The idea that would see officers swap posts about every 3 years is to give police stuck with high rents or commuting to Sydney the chance to get into Newcastle. But there's little sympathy from police here, who say they've done their time in the big smoke and now have family ties. Many have forgone the promotion ladder, opting to stay in Newcastle.
They're required to serve in different parts of the state.
Under the scheme that is to be implemented after Christmas, they are expected to drop everything, and so are their families.
The plan so far only targets senior constables in the Newcastle, Central Coast and Illawarra areas. Many see it as flawed because it won't make the problem go away, but will spread and multiply the hardships.
A lot of the questions were just avoided or not answered. However, Mr Taylor did indicate that he would look at alternative proposals.
The twin service centres straddle the freeway. North and southbound off-ramps feed traffic toward either of the 24-hour one-stop shops. Caltex claims this is the biggest service station complex of its type in Australia. It's equivalent in area to 19 football fields. There's 30,000 square metres of landscaping, 40,000 metres of paving and 4 kilometres of curb and guttering. 10 buildings house 2 restaurants, souvenir shops, breakdown, service and repair centres for cars, buses and trucks. Caltex is now one of the Central Coast's biggest single employers, creating 200 jobs at the $30 million complex, which has taken shape over the past 7 months.
It's probably the only one that is available between Sydney and Newcastle, and as a result we get exclusive rights to the Sydney-Newcastle Expressway. On top of that, of course, it fits in with the government's Drive, Revive, Survive policy, where people can stop here and avoid the black spots a bit further down the track.
The well-oiled operation began its commissioning phase today. Unsuspecting motorists came in for some extra personal driveway service. The Caltex Twin Service Centres will be officially opened in September by the Premier. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The Chief looked a little war-torn today. 3 games in 10 days have taken its toll.
It's a big relief, and I'm quite jaded. I'm pretty tired at the moment, so it's just a great relief to be all over and done with.
Harrigan said last night's test was a hard and sometimes spiteful game that nearly got out of control.
There was times there I felt like, taking a step further, and I know for a fact that Mal liked to warn the referee a few times there that if he doesn't ace it up, there'll be something, going on.
The big front rower was one of the stars of the series. Now with his contract up with the Knights this year, it's time to negotiate his future. As one of the hottest properties in the game, he can command a fee of around $200,000 per season, and 7 teams are vying for his signature.
I believe that I'm talking with the Knights next week for the first time, and then I'll be issuing the rest of the talks with other clubs after that, and then eventually going back to the Knights to have another yarn. So it's basically all happening as far as that one's concerned.
It's been a tough 7 days at the Birmingham Gardens base for the Newcastle Breakers. Coach Bruce Stowell resigned. Now the team's manager of 4 years has quit. Dave McGuire saying he's leaving for purely personal reasons.
Basically, just a decision that I've been tossing around, and my wife and I have been chatting for the last month, and I've just decided that it's time to put my family first for a change.
McGuire admits the Breakers are facing a lean financial period, but says the club is still strong.
Well, it's not easy at the moment. The club owes a bit of money, but I believe the new people they have on the board and what they're trying to do, and they're working very hard at the moment under difficult circumstances. I think they'll get it organised and do very, very well.
While McGuire admits he's had some minor disagreements with certain board members, there are no bad feelings. He has denied a rift in the club and also denies reports that some leading players are about to leave. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
From the land of the rising sun to the city with blue winter skies, Japan's Consul General in Sydney, Masaaki Noguchi, took to the water today to become acquainted with Newcastle. And despite what he'd heard, he liked what he saw.
Well, many Australians told me, why you go to Newcastle? Then I told them it's a nice place, and then my visit just reconfirmed me my impression.
Mr. Noguchi and his wife Yoko came to see where many of those Japan-bound ships with their loads of coal and steel depart from. Despite the economic tough times, the Consul General believes the ties between Japan and the Hunter will grow ever stronger.
I'm sure with the recovery of both countries, there are boundless opportunities, both agriculture and as well as mineral resources.
From plain sailing to fine art, Mr. Noguchi is officially opening an exhibition of Japanese ceramics and contemporary prints at the Newcastle Region Art Gallery tonight. With the exhibit spanning from the traditional to the avant-garde, the Consul General was curious how Japanese art hits the eye of the Aussie beholder.
The Australians like this kind of the classic
Yes, they
style?
do.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The winner beach side was second last coming into the straight, but still got up over a very classy field. It paid $7.80 and $2.80. At Rose Hill, another sensational rear of the pack run in the McKell Cup. Darren Beeben back from Hong Kong to ride the winner. It paid $3.20 and $1.50. Third place Senior Slick came from dead last to pick up his place. The trifecta paid $177.30. 72-year-old Earl Seller from Port Macquarie was the oldest player in the tournament, but age has not wearied Earl and his 71-year-old partner Frank Pitt from Foster Tuncurry. The pair defeated their competitors in this match, which also included another member of the over 70 club, John Smiles of Coffs Harbour, in the white shirt. The 5th annual Mid-North Coast Veterans Tennis Tournament has attracted players aged 40 years and older from as far south as Wollongong and from as far north as the Gold Coast. 3 age division categories are contested from 40 to 49-year-olds, 50 to 59-year-olds and those over 60. Men's singles and doubles and women's singles and doubles also are held in each age group. The tournament will finish up tomorrow with a day of finals.
There's been a reading revolution for the blind, and it's due to technology similar to that used at the Hunters Regional Mail Centre. Just as mail is sorted by a machine that electronically scans addresses, the Kurzweil reading unit scans the page of a book and then reads it to the user.
Cheering monuments throughout the world, like Cliff Glasgow near Sheffield, England, relate production of bottles, glasses and ornaments.
It does this in 9 different voices.
The reading voice is Dr. Dennis.
The reading voice is beautiful. Pete is set at 200 words.
The machine also has varying reading rates and can transfer information to a computer or audio cassette, and that's not all.
You can store the pages as they're scanned and have them read them out to you all together, or you can go paragraph by paragraph.
Currently based at Newcastle Library, Mrs Fraser says the reader is one of a growing number being imported from America. For the visually impaired, Kurzweil presents new independence. Since his late teens, Trevor Davis's eyesight has been deteriorating. Now aged 34, his vision is limited to 5%. The personal reader now has Trevor venturing to venues previously unvisited.
Well, coming to this library to begin with, I would never have thought of coming here because I lost the power to read. So this facility was of no use to me.
Ian Millen describes his view of the world as like looking through a straw. He has only 3 degrees vision. Now the father of 5 can lead a more fulfilling life.
Usually you listen to the television for the news or that, well, you don't get everything. It's a newspaper and that. Now, as I say, you can put the newspaper on that and you can read all the sports.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Idyllic one day, complaints the next. Not an image Lake Macquarie would like to have, but an accurate reflection of popular opinion, according to the Ombudsman, David Lander. Last year, his office received more than 14,000 complaints from throughout the state over the phone, another 6,000 in the post. Jumping from 6th spot to 2nd, Lake Macquarie is pipped by Shoalhaven on the south coast for registering the most complaints about a local council.
It's a sign of discontent when people do complain to the Ombudsman. It's a sign that probably more so that they haven't been able to get resolved at the area that they should.
No, I don't think it is as bad as it seems. We've got 170,000 people living in this area, and when you've got that many people to deal with, you'll invariably run into problems.
According to the city's deputy town clerk, most complaints involved environmental matters and were dismissed by the Ombudsman. The actions of council upheld.
At some stage or other, someone will reach the end of the line with the council and they'll feel that they've got a case they want to take somewhere else. And if they reach that point, they take it to the Ombudsman. That's one of their rights of appeal.
But Ombudsman Lander insists Lake Macquarie and the state's 172 other councils should consider complaints as an opportunity to help disgruntled ratepayers.
I think they've got to be a little bit sensitive to the issues that come before them and try and deal with them themselves so they don't come to me.
On 77 hectares of land at Tacoma, work has begun on a tourist and golf resort that Wyong Council estimates will create 200 jobs. But according to resident Francis Pike, the employment gain is offset by a major environmental loss as the wetlands are filled in.
It's very important to the residents here because it is the major flood plain for the whole for the Wyong township, and nearly all the floodwaters end up here.
Ms Pike says the importance of this land hasn't been lost on the council itself in the past. This pamphlet warns about the impact of filling wetlands, while only 4 years ago the council released a wetland study that explained, among other things, the importance of this area. The study says fill could cause a loss of flood storage, which is in flood velocities and heights, which can create an impact beyond the filled area.
This area is about 150 hectares of wetland, and the proposed development will take up almost half of that area, 77 hectares, which means these people are inevitably going to be much worse flooded.
Wyong Mayor Tony Sheridan says the issue of possible flooding and environmental damage due to the development was considered for more than 3 years before it was approved, and he's satisfied it's been addressed at local and state government levels. But Ms Pike says the council is being hypocritical, going against its own words. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The advertising blurb urged people to hop on a bus for this bargain, but bidding at City Hall for the property in residential Hamilton was slow, with only 4 people entering the fray. It was knocked down to a consortium of 6 Newcastle companies, led by Tecton Holdings of Warrabrook, for $10,000 above the reserve price.
Our syndicate intends to approach Newcastle City Council to apply for a rezoning, the most likely use being a good quality, medium density residential development.
The L-shaped parcel of land is used by State Transit for offices and bus parking. There's also a rundown bowling green and tennis courts. Proceeds from the auction will go toward upgrading the remaining section of the depot, which is still in disrepair from the earthquake.
Well, now that we've made this sale, we can now get on with rebuilding our depot, so there will be a new depot built on the other side of the land that we have retained.
The new owners believe its proximity to the Newcastle CBD will make it valuable property, together with another obvious selling point.
It's well serviced by all the facilities, including buses.
Especially transport,
yes.
And,
Craig Peavy arrived at training this afternoon to be told the match-up was off. He was less than impressed. For the past 2 months he's been training twice a day and dieting in preparation for the fight.
He knows now that I'm mentally and physically ready to fight anybody in Australia, and I think they're just waiting until either I've been drinking too much or something, I don't know.
The first time Peavy and Rousel met was in May. Rousel declared the winner after Peavy was disqualified because of a headbutt that badly cut the casino champion. A rematch was immediately planned and Rousel talked about getting square.
I'm looking forward to going back to Newcastle in 6 weeks and turning Craig Peavy inside out.
However, he withdrew from their first rematch, claiming his eye cut hadn't healed. They were due to step into the ring again on the 23rd of this month, and it was going to be the main draw card. But again, Rousel has pulled out. This time the reason isn't clear. Peavy has his own ideas why it's off.
I think they've watched the video of my last fight and they've known that I'm getting better, I'm coming back to myself, and he knows that it would have been a hard fight, a lot harder than the last time.
Promoters have cancelled the whole program for this month and are now trying to reschedule to a suitable date. Until then, Peavy says he'll keep training and waiting.
It's the second night in a row the slashers have struck, randomly targeting cars in Cooks Hill, Bar Beach and Merewether. Breakdown services and tyre dealers were inundated with calls for help as motorists discovered the damage.
I had to put 2 new tyres on it to get registered the other week, so we have to replace the 4 now.
It's a bit of an inconvenience getting to work and a bit of a shame, extra money you have to spend that you shouldn't have to.
The sidewalls and valves of some tyres had been pierced by what's believed to be a sharp, thin-bladed knife or screwdriver. All 4 tyres were slashed on some vehicles. The damages bill is expected to run into thousands of dollars, with many owners slugged for towing fees, and some will be unable to make insurance claims. Cars parked on the streets, near pubs and clubs and in driveways and garages were hit. Police are investigating.
I had reports from one of the guys this morning. Went to pick his car up from the car park, and he's also had 2 brand new $200 tyres slashed. So, as I say, I wish we could swear on camera and really like to catch these guys.
Bill Smith has worked tirelessly toward a middle ground of understanding between white and black for the best part of 20 years. He's maintained a voice of reason throughout the often inflammatory collisions of cultures, usually emerging having won a new friend or ally. As part of National Aboriginal Week, Mr Smith has been recognised for his many community works, which include founding the Awabakal Disabilities Unit and Co-op based at Wallsend, which is concerned with the well-being, employment and education of Aborigines. As an elder of the Kamilaroi tribe, Mr Smith is also credited with attempting to revive the cultural identity of many of his people and, where possible, sharing traditional rituals and customs with non-Aboriginal Australians.
Oblivious to the financial burden of his 700-kilogram presence, Eric the saltwater crocodile is just one of hundreds of attractions looking for a sponsor. The park is planning a major revamp, but needs to cover its huge food bill to free up other funds.
If we can do that sort of thing, it frees up funds, and those funds can then be used to extend facilities, research programs, breeding programs, which we find it very hard to do.
Every year, more than 100,000 visitors pour through the gates at the Australian Reptile Park, today's rainy weather proving no deterrent to hundreds of students enjoying their school holidays. Operated as a private concern, the park isn't eligible for government subsidies.
You can sponsor an animal for as cheap as $50, or you can go up to, say, $200 odd. And then for some enterprises who would like to contribute to have an enclosure built, they might like to contribute $1,000 or in excess of that.
For these students at Berkeley Vale Primary School, it's a two-way affair. They've found a new friend in this diamond python. He's happy to know his meals are taken care of for another year and there's a shoulder to lean on. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Last March, 6-year-old Ben Weshi was told he had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Since then, he's been on chemotherapy. While the treatment can be painful, Ben doesn't complain.
Why do you go to the hospital?
Make me better. For Mum Kerry, the news was upsetting.
Just shocked, yeah. Just worried what was going to happen.
Leukemia is cancer of the blood. It starts inside the bones where the blood is made and from there spreads to other organs. While the treatment may produce side effects, in many cases it also offers a cure. Through medical research, drug treatment has been improved. In the 60s, only about 5% of children survived leukemia. Today, at the time of diagnosis, they have a 70% chance of living a normal life.
Interestingly enough, a lot of the drugs were there 20 years ago, but there were some innovations, and particularly the innovations were in treatment where multiple drug treatment was used.
Professor O'Gorman-Hughes treats Ben and other children at the John Hunter's Oncology Clinic, children such as 6-year-old Megan Jones. These days, there's not much to distinguish Megan from any other child at Lambton Primary in Newcastle.
I want some honey for the John. Get ready for this one?
Megan was also diagnosed with leukemia, but with 2 years of chemotherapy behind her and no sign of a recurrence, she now has a 95% chance of leading a normal life. Leukemia is not the only type of cancer where progress is being made. Professor O'Gorman-Hughes says in most childhood cancers, the odds are on the child's side. 11-year-old Emma Hamilton had lymphoma, a cancer which affects the lymph glands and tissue.
I thought, oh no, what's going to happen? And they told me I was going to lose my hair, and I did. But it came back. I lost it 3 times. It came back. And that was pretty scary.
Emma too is off treatment, and like Megan Jones, her prospects are excellent.
Just be positive and you'll get through it.
Research is continuing into how to further improve treatment. While the odds are in Ben Weshy's favour, with more than a year of chemotherapy to go, he's taking each week as it comes. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Elaine Arthur is a mother desperate to find her son. 31-year-old Barry disappeared after a party in Adamstown Heights on Friday night.
We've all prayed and got to God that he's all right, but I just don't know. It's awful hard. And even his sister, she's in Broome and she's frantic over the fact that there's no word or anything.
Police have received a lot of help from the public in tracing Barry's movements. Around 4 a.m, Barry was in Tremont Avenue. His clothes were found on the veranda of this house. His friends have told police he'd been drinking heavily. At 6:30, a person fitting Barry's description was seen with no pants or shoes in Fletcher Street. Half an hour later, police believe he was in Garden Grove Parade near Burns Street with a blue beach towel wrapped around his waist. 2 different people have told police they saw Barry at 7:15 near the Gun Club Road, Merriweather. They know it was Barry because he had a distinctive walk. At 2:30, a pair of shoes was stolen from a construction site in Highfields Parade. Police can't confirm whether this was Barry. His disappearance is baffling. His mother believes he's alive, but has no idea why he hasn't come home.
Barry, darling, please come home. Or even if you can't come home, ring and let me know. Just let me know that you're all right. That's all.
Okay.
Alan Wennon has been the chairman of the board of Newcastle Austral Football Club for just 11 days, every day of which he's been working at keeping creditors at bay. Mr Wennon today confirmed that the Austral Club owes $2.3 million. When the Breakers moved into the national soccer competition, they had to build a grandstand and lights. This step into the big league has meant an increase in debt. The majority of the money owed, $1.8 million, was borrowed to upgrade the soccer ground.
You're looking at 1.3, 1.4 million, and then it's blown out up to 1.9. So there's $600,000. So that's where they're into trouble.
Alan Wennon says another contributing factor was the weather.
If you're not getting people through the turnstiles, you're not making dollars.
Alan Wennon says the club has a bank overdraft of $270,000. It also has a tax bill of $170,000 and owes local creditors at least $80,000. Despite the weight of the debt, Wennon remains confident the club will survive. He says the club's assets are worth about $3 million and the local community, businesses and sponsors are rallying to support the breakers.
For 4 years, Michael Hagan has been the general of the Knights play, one of the key signings when the club moved into its second crusade in 1989. A class player, the 28-year-old is in his 11th season in Winfield Cup, with 103 first-grade games with Newcastle. But now the 5'8", sometimes centre and lock, is going back to an English club he played for 9 years ago.
Well, basically, I've reached a verbal agreement with Halifax in England, something I've been wanting to do for a while.
Hagan will finish season 93 with Newcastle, but admits he should make way for the young talent coming through. He says he's had some special moments with the Knights.
You wouldn't go past last year as far as being a part of the first team to reach the semi-finals in first grade. It was a great experience. We won the sevens, which was a bonus, and reached the playoff in 1990. So overall there's been some good years here, and I've been very fortunate to be a part of that.
Hagan's decision comes on the heels of the loss of Schuster and the reported flare-up over Kemp's future. Coach Waite admits to an unsettling effect on the club, with many key players coming to the end of their contracts.
It's my hope that we can sit down in the not-too-distant future with a good 25 players and sit down for 2 years and say, well, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to go about doing it.
Meanwhile, Godden has been re-signed and Jamie Ainscough has agreed to terms. The Knights get on with the business on the paddock on Sunday, taking on Brisbane at Marathon Stadium. Peter Ryan, NBN News. More than 300 competitors have jumped, barrelled and bounced their way around the ring during 3 days of fierce competition. Despite being a bit muddy underfoot, the riders put their heart and soul into events such as camp drafting, flags and bends. The rodeo originated in 1981, with people from the Gloucester, Nabiac and Wingham areas deciding to put on a local event for the juniors.
It's the only competition of its kind that is run.
All of the riders are aged between 11 and 21. A running point score decided the winner of each of the events. Local boy Andrew Stone outclassed his rivals in the flags.
Stephen King, the winning jockey there. Balmoral Bow paid $5.30 and $2.20. The trifecta came in at just under $500. At Randwick, watch for the Dark Horse pushing his way to the lead in the Calvary Cup. Wally's Choice came from second last to win. It paid $14.80 and $3.70. The trifecta, $8.56.70.
Amphetamines may illuminate the nightlife of users, but it seems these drugs now have an even darker side. Local GP Dr Paul Ogilvie-Lee says he's treated a number of speed users in Newcastle who he says are suffering with unusual side effects. Dr Ogilvie-Lee says the side effects include boils covering the body, flu and extreme anxiety. Users with these symptoms are being encouraged